Thank you, Sam, for sharing some context about NVCS and our programs, just to build up sort of some of our accomplishments as an agency. I mean, the biggest thing I think we do.
Sorry, come here, hon. Can't hear
The
you.
biggest thing I think that we do is, bringing people together, validating their worth by showing how much we care for
Are you
them.
doing this one?
Hold on just a second. Hyacinth, you're not.
Oh, I'm sorry. So sorry.
No worries. Our food distribution program has really allowed us to tap into various communities and make our own community that much bigger. And by bringing people together, we're able to extend opportunities. And through our feeding programs, we're able to afford a basic need that all of us as human beings require. And also really that engagement that validates people's existence, on a daily basis. Katie, can you forward a couple of slides to, this is our feeding program. We bring over 100 people every week to come together. We feed over 700 families. Over 15,000 pounds of food goes out to the community. Most of the work we're doing nowadays is not so much for the most impoverished population in our community, but really is the middle income that's really struggling to be able to make it nowadays. People who are paying their mortgage, their car insurance, school supplies for their children, they're trying to hold on. And I'm always asked, like, how do you know that people are in need? And it takes about an hour to get through our program, about 700 vehicles. So anybody who's willing to be in a line for over an hour in 100-degree weather, I think is really showing that they need the food that we give them. Next slide, please, Katie. When we deal with homelessness, we really like to take that phrase off and we use unhoused, because we have seen people that do not have a dwelling, nomads all over the world. They're not suffering from homelessness. For us, homelessness is feeling detached, marginalized, uncared for. So the main thing we do with the individuals that we serve in our community is to let them know that we love them, we care for them, they have value. We show that through the programs that we offer, through the way we work with them relationally, walk, hand in hand through situations and crisis until we can get people at a much healthier place. We work holistically. It's not just housing that is our ultimate goal, which is something we do very well, but it really is working a health program where we meet people at. And the people themselves, they will direct us as to what type of goals they have in regards to the overall health. As Sam mentioned before, safe parking program, mostly women. We have 3 different sites, and all of them complain about nights where they were accosted in their car, unable to go to the restroom, and really just not having peace. They would try to find during the day. They would try to sleep in libraries, and it just made it a vicious cycle in which housing and things like mending relationships or trying to figure things out were just impossible because of the lack of sleep and the lack of rest. We offer safe parking programs with security, showers, meals, clothing, but most of all, it's that peace. People are able to sleep at night and they're able to work out their situations during the day. Our youth programs, most of the work we do at our youth programs is support academically, but really validating young people's lives. In our neighborhood, most of our kids, just by the data alone, are not going to make it to high school. We have 5 elementary schools in a 3-mile radius. We have 2 middle schools and only 1 high school. We have extreme dropout rates, teen pregnancies. We still have gang involvement in our community. But NVCS, we have really accepted the challenge to curb that, to change that. We have great partners like Mary Grace's church who come through and they love and support our kids with events and really just demonstrate to them that they're very important. There's an entire community who is fighting with them and for them to move them forward, not only academically, but overall in their best health. And it's really a family program that we service. cost of living in a neighborhood like North Hill, San Fernando Valley is right on par with any other middle income community. A one-bedroom apartment can cost anywhere from $900 to $1,100. The difference being that there might be 6 or 7 people in a one-bedroom apartment. And so for that reason, everybody has to earn money within the household. So we've started programs with our volunteers in which we show them business acumen. We really support them in the entire process of becoming small business owners. We've established a place called Colectivo, where we offer them a storefront for them, much like consignment, they're able to sell their goods. They keep 100% of the proceeds. They have started a flower program, a plant program, in which plants that are donated to us that are damaged, that are dying, they replant them, they bring them back to life, and then they sell the plants, and they keep 100% of the proceeds. It's a team of women working together in a very collective, cooperative way. That's the way NVCS works across the board. We don't expect handouts. We accept people into our community, and our community gets better for it. So someone like Sam doesn't come in and does charity 3 times a week at the center. Sam comes in and he works hand in hand with his friends at the center for all of us to be better. And when Sam leaves, I'm pretty sure he'll tell you that there has been an exchange of equity. There has been exchange of feeling good and feeling like you have accomplished something. Throughout our center, that's what we have to do. It really is contrary to how most social services are done now, in which everything is siloed and everything has to do with passing people on and really disconnecting time and time again. For us, it really is relational. It's really overlapping, supporting programs in which you just continue to meet fantastic people and continue to be afforded opportunities to be better, and then to help somebody else to be better as well. And then finally, I sort of wanted to run through our programming, because Mary Grace wanted me to share my story. And really, what is it that motivates me? I was born and raised in Los Angeles, 70s, 1971. And I was born in a household to parents who, they loved me, they cared for me, they raised me with awesome values, respecting people, property, authority. And I was known as a really good kid. I did well in school. I was a church kid, came through youth programs. And the one thing I can say is, being an only child, I think I grew up really fast, and I thought I was an adult at an early age. I would participate in adult conversations, and I don't think that was very helpful to me. But at some point, church and the family rules and regulations became a little overburdensome. I wanted to experiment life that was right outside the doors of my home in Echo Park. And I felt like being a good person, having good values, and a person of faith, I felt like I can sort of experiment with that lifestyle that was outside of my door. And that lifestyle being gangs, the gangs of Los Angeles. And, for a time being, I thought, this is going to work out. I can experiment, I can live the life, I can run around and still be a good person. But in every way, the lifestyle challenged me in my values and started really redefining very important words like love and loyalty. And it's, looking back in hindsight, I can understand why I was a really good gang member. And it's because my values started off in such a high, deep place that when someone said, hey, I'm your comrade, I'm your friend, I'm your brother, to me, that meant a lot. So I was always willing to be the first one in, the first one out. If a friend needed a place to stay, then it was both of us needing a place to stay. And it's no surprise that sort of elevated me through the ranks of the local gang, street gang in Los Angeles. But it also got the attention of a criminal organization that runs all of the gangs of Los Angeles. I managed to stay out of jail and prison for the most part. But at some point at the age of 24, I did go to prison. And I went to prison for 20 years. And really having no experience of jail, let alone prison. I was a kid, a young man, having to learn to navigate the roughest prisons in California. And the first 10 years, I was so angry with, the God of my understanding. I felt like, he had left me behind and he let my life sort of spin out of control. And then, if I was going to go to if I was going to go to quote hell, then I was going to go guns blazing. I was not going to try to be a good person no more. It was just going to be all about Manny. And my first 10 years in prison did not go well. It was just one incident after another. And then the incidents would really elevate me higher and higher within the prison gang. And so 10 years into my confinement, the biggest blessing in my life sort of happened. That blessing was that I was sent to Pelican Bay State Prison, to the security housing unit, in which you're by yourself 24 hours a day, confined without any personal interaction. You're in a cell by yourself, no sunlight. It's sensory deprivation at its maximum. I can remember my first days, and I was really reflecting on this. I just mentioned to Katie, I kind of want to run through my story to get to the meditation part, because I want to thank Jonathan. He really took me back to a place where, for the first time in my life in the cell, I was able to slow things down, to quiet things down. And then really to begin a process of introspection that was very fearful for me, because I had never really thought about how I became what I became. And in my solitude, it just became more and more fearful. The first days of my confinement were just so long. I didn't think I was ever going to be able to make it. And then getting to the point where I can take an inventory of myself and figure out how I got to where I got to. What are the things that I believed in? How did things go wrong? And really an undressing of myself, in a space where I didn't have to act like a big shot. I didn't have to uphold to an expectation. It was really just really undressing myself and not really liking what I saw. And at some point, deciding to accept myself and really understanding that, most of the life that I had lived in my gang participation was a life in which I was playing a role, often a role dictated by others. And I played that role really well. But down deep inside, I knew I wasn't that person. And I knew that, there had to be a process for me getting back to who I wanted to be. And, through that process, 8 years in a prison cell by myself, I give God thanks because I found my essence there. I was able to determine who I wanted to be. I was able to throw the bad stuff out and to bring the good stuff in, stuff that I dictated, stuff that I wanted to stand up to and fight for, and my own voice. And I was very appreciative of that. And at some point, I started looking around myself and asking other men who are very high in the criminal organization certain questions that led me to understand that the majority of men in this situation were also part of this movie and playing a role, and had really picking up this lifestyle. But they were much like me. They were really, decent people underneath. There were some people who I think were just wired differently and don't appreciate life and really don't have the ability to run through a process like an inventory. But I was surprised to just see how many people were like me. And I just started a conversation with men about, why do you believe what you believe? And how did your life start? And it's a series of decisions, that sort of snowball out of control. Somewhere in that process, I make the decision that if given an opportunity, I would like to redeem some of my experiences. I love my family. I love my community. I love Los Angeles, and to think that I have went through all of this life and to just want to put it in a box and throw it away and not use it for anything was just not acceptable to me. It would have been just a waste of time and energy and 20 years in prison. And so I started contemplating how I might be able to use my experiences to help others. And when I came home from prison, it was amazing. A church that supported me while I was behind the walls was now fearful to have me within the congregation because they now knew my story and now I was real, I was tangible, I was sitting in the front seats. So they encouraged me to go somewhere else where I might find what I needed. I was very hurt by that, and I didn't really understand what that was about, but um, I felt like my church time was sort of in a pause, if you will. And I shortly got married after that to my beautiful wife, who's in the picture with my mom. And I asked her if it would be okay if I could take some time off and really find a space where I can serve others. And she obviously supported me. And I came to North Valley Caring Services 7 years ago, and I applied for a job as a volunteer. The director at that time, I don't know why she considered my application with a 20-year, work experience gap. And also, it was really the first time I had ever gone through an interview process where I was totally honest. Whatever may come out of this interview, I want to be honest. I want to be confident in the results of this interview. I had to share with her that I was on high control parole, that I had served 20 years in prison. She asked me what my crime was. And the most interesting thing is that I had a reference in common with someone she knew and she respected highly. So she just kept talking to me through the interview process. And at some point, she said, Manny, I think you're the worst candidate that I have ever seen on paper for a job interview. But I think you're the right person for this community. I think that you'll know how to connect with the community and you'll know how to bring resources here. So she hired me as a volunteer coordinator, and there were no volunteers. There really were no programs at the time to coordinate other than Sam's program, which is a breakfast program, but that program sort of ran by itself. And I just started making connection in the community. I started just bringing people together. I started talking to people to trust that if we show up, great things will happen. And, the interesting thing is this community, it really, it brings a lot of people who are new to the country here. And although we're very tight as Latinos and in our countries where, we give off that impression that we're very tight, but the need in the countries that we come from make it to where we're very individualistic. We're always looking for as much as we can get. We'll do whatever we can do to make sure that our family, our unit is doing well. And so I had to break some of those bad tendencies and get people to really trust that collectively, cooperatively, that if you can build me up for the purpose of me building somebody else up, that we would be better for it. And it took some time. It took a few years, a few incidents, inviting some of the harder people in the community to actually become part of the work, inviting them in and to be part of the process. Over time, the community has bought into it. The community has bought into it, and they are so supportive. So people come to our agency, and there's a term called social determinants of health. And it basically means that for me to give you some food is fantastic. It's good. But for me to give you some food and introduce you to somebody, and for you to go through a different door, a different program, spend time at the agency, then what you have now is an opportunity to become part of our community. And that is the biggest thing that NVCS has brought to this really just tiny community in San Fernando Valley. And it's something that's being acknowledged across the board. We're invited to participate in programming all over San Fernando Valley. Our volunteers have been acknowledged as just, above average volunteers, like superheroes. The numbers that we do is incredible. The budget that we work from is minuscule. And it's because all of our resources go into helping. Really is there are no expenditures that are not directly related to serving people. And for me, my life has just turned, completely around. Somebody who is not associated with anything positive. I've been now acknowledged as an agent of change for communities. I've been honored in different circles, which is just mind-boggling to me because my work is so simple and it's a lifestyle. And recently, I was appointed as a commissioner of Los Angeles for the Commission of Communities and Family Services. And the reality is, if it weren't for people like the Gleasons, if it weren't for people just showing up and giving things a chance, then there would be no acknowledgement. It really is validating people's value by the way we care for them. That's why I was so excited to be here this morning and to be able to share my personal story, but more importantly, the beautiful thing that's happening in North Hills and the way it's sort of moving around San Fernando Valley. People are acknowledging it, especially as an option, as I said before, an option to how social services have been done historically. But I thank you all for bringing me back to meditation. I find it almost impossible to have quiet time and a time to reflect. But I realize I have to fight for this. I'm going to continue giving so much of myself and my time to be able to give a certain level of care to people. I have to be well myself. So I'm very grateful for this group and for everything that it provides. And, I look forward to bringing something like this to the community as well. I do it really, as a microcosm, different things that we create around the agency, but to really have, something that is comprehensive, something that is very intentional in regards to safe space, meditation, introspection, then really an evaluation is something that I look forward to bringing to our communities. And that's my story, you guys.
We do have time if maybe we want to open it up to any questions or comments from other people.
Manny, I would have one question. Thank you so much for sharing. I find it quite funny that you say that you don't have time for meditation. I think that you have so much. If you had a savings account, that you had so much time to meditate for those years and those years, that you must be like quantum leaping. You did all of this stuff. So be so gentle on yourself, because you did so. Wow, I'm humbled. I am so humbled. And I will look forward to coming and volunteering at your beautiful facility. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that.
Thomas?
Manny, I've already been on the phone calling. I'm all in. This story is so moving to me. I actually just sent Sam and Mary Grace a request for your email address or phone number. Can I get that, please?
Absolutely. I think Katie's going to post information for you all.
I just added to chat.
We'll send you.
I'm available for anything. I'm available for anything. Anybody wants to have anything to do with me personally, the agency, the work, or wants to talk about my perspective on something. It really is a lifestyle. My wife and I have decided that we just want to give and give as much as we can, whatever it may be.
Thank you so much.
I'll send an email out with all the information.
Thomas, and then Whitney.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Manny and Katie. I appreciate it. I'm up in Seattle. I'm not down in LA. And your sharing touched me in two ways. One, I'm remembering that I made the mistake of vouching for my son in front of a judge one time, and I shouldn't have done it, because when he was in solitary, he discovered the meditation and the serenity that you're talking about. And that's the only place he could find it, was when he was in prison and in solitary. And by vouching for him, he stayed out of prison, and he died 3 years ago as a result of, well, I don't know as a result, but I still regret that I vouched for him, in effect. So that's one effect. Thank you for bringing that reality back in front of me. And the other is I'm regretting that I'm not in LA, so I can't come and pitch in at North Valley Caring Services. Is there a similar program that you're aware of up in this neck of the woods, up in Seattle? Or if anybody is, I'm open to it, but I'm asking you first, man.
Not offhand, but and I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
There are so many things regarding the court system and regarding, what my family did. My parents absolutely lied on the stand to try to protect me. And I absolutely lied about my case to try to protect them from really, having an idea of what I was capable of, my mistakes. So it's very complicated, but I think faith at some point sort of washes all that out. I don't know any organization per se in Seattle. What I can tell you is, a lot of the support we do also has to do with people who are just doing things on their own, like, creating a space in Seattle for what you just said, for like parents who are grieving, for the unhoused. I mean, there are just so many different ways. I'm working with churches right now, churches that are very uncomfortable thinking about inviting homelessness into their campuses, or, there's just a fear of the unknown. And I'm just offering them opportunities to possibly contemplate doing something supportive from where they are at. So even yourself, Dr. Griggs, there's a way that you can be totally involved with NVCS, even if you're in Seattle. There's Zoom. I mean, the intent is the biggest thing. But I would love to, do some scouting and see if there's something I can connect you with in Seattle for sure.
Okay, thank you for everything you just said. And you don't have to add scouting for me onto your list of things you're already doing. I'll take it from there. But I do appreciate your heart and your offer. Thank you so much for this. It's very healing.
I'm so moved. My husband was president of an organization very much like you are involved with. I think it was called Casa de Amistad, and I think doesn't exist, or it's merged into something else. But he was an aerospace scientist, but in his retirement, he wanted to give back. And so he wanted to help communities in the Valley that were in need. And one other thing he was involved with philanthropically was the California Community Foundation. And I just want to ask if you've been in touch with them, because they would be a source of funding for you. And because they're huge and they would love your organization. That's my feeling.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that our work has really put us in a place where we can begin to go out for grants, as the California Community Foundation. Our biggest issue is that 2017, we were 4 employees, 3 of which were part-time. I was the only full-time employee. The director was half-time because we just didn't have revenues. We didn't have programming at the time. And now you fast forward, and NVCS now has over 30 employees, a budget of over $2 million, a payroll of $90,000 a month. The issue has been the growth is really like a baby going from 2-month-old, and in 6 weeks now it's a young adult with a mustache, right? So we have had to put some things together, the infrastructure that foundations will feel comfortable moving forward with the large award. So we're working on that. We have relationships, conversations going on with many people. The city would love to take credit for every program that we have. They were not interested in the vision. They're all interested in coming through and having a photo op at our food bank or with our kids. And so we're trying to navigate that. We don't ever want to lose our grassroots way of working. We don't ever want to be part of a harm reduction policy that we don't believe in. So it's involving people to really, be stakeholders in the work that we do. That is most inspiring to us. With that said, I want to keep fantastic people employed, many of which who have redirected their lives to really, be in a place like NVCS in which they believe in the work that they are doing. So we're working on it. And, any connections would definitely be helpful, but that is definitely a foundation that's on our radar. They do funding. That is amazing as well.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Great, great. Blessings.
Michelle?
So Manny, I am so deeply touched by you. That you could spend 10 years in prison and then come to that place of going from the outer to the inner and discovering yourself. That's an incredibly powerful message. Also, I reside in Costa Rica and I am on the board of the Amigos of Costa Rica, which is a 501c3 in the US that supports over 120 affiliate organizations here in Costa Rica, doing very powerful grassroots work. And what I got from what you shared with us today is several things. One, the power of your story to communicate your why. And secondly, the way in which you see the reciprocity that happens when we volunteer, that we give and we receive simultaneously. And so I thank you for the gift of this presentation, because I am going to make sure that our executive directors of our different affiliates have access to this tape, because they can learn and grow from you, and also my board, because the way in which you have framed this work, the honor and respect that you have for the people that you serve, is exactly the kind of attitude and philosophy and mindset that we need to have in our work, both as donors and as contributors and as volunteers in organizations. So I just applaud you. I thank you. And I'm not going to add to your list, but I know you could communicate with Spanish to as many of our folks, but I'm going to get them your
Sure.
tape first, because your message is universal. And the way in which you are working can be replicated worldwide. And I'm going to make sure that the people that I serve have access to what you've shared, because you're going to be a source of inspiration to them, as you've been to me and to all of us this morning. So I just honor you and thank you.
Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you for your.
Jasmine?
Thank you so much for your presentation, Manny. I have a loved one that's coming out of jail, and I really appreciate your sharing your story, because it's inspiration for all, like for me for sure, and also for him. I'm going to reach out to you just so you can give us resources, and it's so inspirational to know that you just turned your life around, and I was very motivated by your story. Thank you so much, and keep doing what you're doing, because it's blessing the world, truly.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Yes.
Anything I can do to help.
Okay, thank you so much.
Is it possible to hear Katie's voice for a moment or two?
Sure.
And Sam, go ahead.
Go ahead with Katie.
Okay.
Well, good morning. So excited to be here with Manny. And I just keep nodding. You probably see me smiling and nodding because I have huge respect for Manny, big time. Totally blessed my life. I have been with NVCS for just over a year, and I actually gravitated towards the organization when I learned just what was going on, and I hadn't heard of them, even though I lived like right here in the community. And went for an interview and a site visit with Manny, and he'd shared about the safe parking program. And about 10 years ago, we have twins who were 11 years old, and we had a situation. I'd worked for a national nonprofit for like 11 years and got laid off, and we lost everything and literally ended up in our car. And I remember, like, the worst part for me was like, it just hit me at first when somebody said after work one day, like, oh, where are you going? Not after work, sorry, after my kids finished school. Where are you going now? And they're like, to our car. And they couldn't say, you know, we're going home. And it was like, it just hit me so much. Like, we don't have a home, we don't have anywhere to go to. And we ended up, you know, like literally on the valley streets, driving, parking in front of different areas, different houses. And I learned Walmart car park was the only place you could go where you wouldn't be harassed and you could park and there was security. And so when I learned at NVCS that they had this program for safe parking, it was like, wow. And they have toilets and bathrooms. The shower and breakfast program that Sam volunteers is available, and case management and resources for families just like ours was, and people, women, men, it doesn't matter. It was like, we're there for them. It was just like, I have to work for this organization. I just have to, because there's just such a need. And what I love about it more than anything is literally Manny's philosophy of embracing everyone with grace and giving second chances. And what I've seen in just a year is that opportunity is phenomenal. It raises confidence in people, it brings family together, and it restores like our own selves as well as so many people that we're working with. And you just see just like people like light up. And so that's kind of how I got to NVCS, and really looking forward to continuing to cultivate different partnerships and opportunities like the one that Manny was mentioning with California Community Foundation to help raise more exposure and more money to help us do more of what we do. So that's about me.
Samuel.
Oh, Sam or Samuel?
No,
Sam.
Sam, okay. Yeah. In addition to being a phenomenal administrator, Katie has the capacity to remember everyone's name that she met only one time. I'm astounded. It just blows my mind. I wanted to mention, I don't think it got mentioned by Manny, that toward the end of his prison stay, he went online and got his degree as a Presbyterian minister. And one of the things that touched me deeply was, I think there were like 1,000 men on his cell block, and he started having Sunday services where 700 or 800 of them would show up every Sunday morning. So, you know, that was another step in his transformation and redemption. It's really an amazing story. Thank you.
Yeah, my life in the church has been very ecumenical, and I keep religion very small. I show my faith by what I do, how I live my life, and North Valley Caring Services is a place where people from different faiths, they really are welcome to come and exercise that faith. You know, working with the populations that we serve, and it's been just a fantastic journey.
Thank you for pointing that out, Manny. I didn't mean to put you into a Presbyterian.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
I just was totally moved when I heard that story. Thank you.
Manny, may I ask, so your vision, what's your vision for the future? Oh, you're muted.
That's a great question. You know, my vision personally is to use everything I am to be true to myself, to be able to share, you know, goodness with people. My vision for the agency is, it's not etched in any type of solid vision other than creating platforms to invite people to give of themselves for their community. And in doing so, being very light in management, empowering people. I mean, I hear some of your stories and your backgrounds, and I'm just like, I wish I could invite every one of you to come and just experience something at NVCS, contemplate how you might be able to benefit from it, and also provide something for our community. And that's sort of the take that I have on everything. I have so many expectations about, you know, the agency being healthy and the community being healthy. But I never really know how it's going to work out. I'm excited to be here with you. It's a fantastic morning. How many people will be motivated to reach out to me directly? Who knows? But I would hope that this is taken into your day and, you know, the circles that you are in. And I'm always hopeful that communications are made with everybody, you know, that we interact with. That's my hope, that, you know, when we leave here, we're going to be bombarded with other causes, other needs, you know, things that we're involved with. And it happens to me all the time. My thing is, let's just keep this conversation going. Let me invite you all to a site visit. I think experiencing NVCS, for those who are able, the sights, the sounds, seeing the fact that you won't be able to tell those that we serve from those that are paid, from volunteers. It's just a fantastic ecosystem. That would be my vision, is thinking and experiencing, you know, how many people are here. Pamela, who's in France, right? Hopefully she sees this, and maybe that can do something in France, you know, and Mikael, who's in Costa Rica, you know, again, what might that interaction lead to? We'll see. That is my vision for this. When I tried to sell a vision, never worked out. Like I said, nobody's interested in a vision in per se. They're interested really in the exchanges, I think, the interaction. So I invite everybody just to interact with MVCS and myself.
We've got a lot of chat going on in the chat room, just saying how everybody's looking forward to you've got your address there, and Mary Grace will send out more. And I just, if you haven't already had a book written about yourself, Linda, so that's Linda, she's in one of our Master Circle members. She's not here today, but she works with Homeboys Industries. And your story is very similar to what Father, that he started. So whatever transformation your life has great measure, and it's just your inspiration is beyond anything I've heard firsthand. My thought is, I'm hearing Gandhi is the first thing that comes to my mind. Is like, I'm like, we have our incarnated version of Gandhi at this moment.
I appreciate it. I'm contemplating. I will share with you in the safe space. And Katie is a witness. My personal story is very Scorsese. It's just one thing after another that sort of unfolds. In my introspection and in my decision-making process, I've always known there's a fine line between sensationalism and using that sensationalism even for a good cause, and me wanting to be confident in what's been created. So the beautiful thing about NVCS is if you remove me from it, it's still going to be a beautiful place that works. Now I'm able to more comfortably share my background because it's almost secondary to the beautiful work that's happening. But there are people who are, especially in the podcast now, and people that I know, friends who have paroled from prison, and they're really using the gang life, sensationalism to even benefit good causes. But I didn't want that. I really wanted to be able to share myself at some point, you know, genuinely, and, you know, admit to participating in certain things and my rehabilitation for sure, and applying it to NVCS. I am a product of NVCS. My director, who I replaced, is out of the School of Stanford nonprofit business management school. My management comes out of California prisons, comes out of a gang life. It's taking out the negative and keeping the positive management styles. And so I'm not ashamed of that, but it's not the platform for which NVCS was created. It's now something that we're sort of imagining, and I would love to be able to discuss someone, even that, like, how do we bring in a different perspective? And I would love to continue to share my story.
And we have one more comment from Lovita, please.
Manny, thank you so much for your presentation. Sorry, I'm deeply touched. There's a magazine that I have taken for years. It's called Yes. And just by listening to your language, it's an international magazine that talks about going into community and creating a sustainable lifestyle. Just in your languaging of these are our neighbors, the humility that I experience in your choice of words and your commitment. And it's like, I'm in awe that it's growing. I'm grateful to Sam for his 11-year commitment. He is, such a gift on so many levels and just quietly goes about doing what you're describing right now. And I don't feel any rah, rah, rah coming from you. I mean, you just covered everything so beautifully. You are not promoting in a way that you want to be part of this successful team. You want to quietly come in and be a family member and a neighbor and contribute on any level that's possible. I don't live in the area, or I would be over there as well, but I'm just deeply touched at your work. And I'm going to be giving it some thought about how on some level I can contribute, but I really admire your humility and your honesty. And you started by volunteering. So you came up knowing the things that are being faced and dealt with. Thank you so much for your work and for your example and your testimony.
Thank you. I'd like to share one more thing. Mary Grace, she's involved with our children, with huge events at the end of the year, but she's also been a champion for our Colectivo store. It's a boutique. At NVCS, we do things much different than the usual community service. So, we have a small space and we don't ask for people to donate stuff to us, because stuff tends to be, things that you've worn out, things that you're no longer using, things that you, I think, determine you can afford to move on from. We actually challenge people to give us, if you love 5 things in your life, 5 articles of clothes, your favorite dresses, give one up. Let somebody else experience that one thing. And, it's a smaller donor base, but Mary Grace can really attest to the fact that it's radical. In some cases, people react, they think about it. But, if we are blessed, let's share the blessing with somebody else. And so I invite you into our store, our boutique. You can see some of it online. I don't think it's been kept up to date, but it's a beautiful place. It honors our community. It honors the way we give to people in a different way. It's not out of a box. It's not charity. It really is, you come into the boutique and you're tended to. We're not trying to manipulate you into buying something. We're trying to convince you that whether you buy or we give you, that you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. And we're trying to offer you the best that we have and not, something that is worn out. We appreciate the other donations, but this is really something much different.